Spindletop Hill's oil discovery started an economic boom in Texas. Image 1. Oil derricks at Spindletop Hill, south of Beaumont, Texas, in 1903, 2 years after the discovery of oil there. Photo from the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation. On January 10th of 1901, an enormous geyser of oil exploded from a drilling site at Spindletop Hill. The mound was created by an underground salt deposit located near Beaumont in southeastern Texas. The gusher reached a height of more than 150 feet and produced close to 100,000 barrels of oil a day. It was more powerful than any previously seen in the world. A booming oil business soon grew up around the oil field at Spindletop. Many of the major oil companies in the United States can trace their origins there. By the mid-19th century, the tremendous efforts or effects of the Industrial Revolution had created a need for cheaper and more convenient fossil fuel than coal. This need would be filled by petroleum. Edwin Drake drilled the first well specifically intended to withdraw oil in Pennsylvania in 1859. By the end of the century, Pennsylvania had produced more oil than any other state. Exploring Spindletop Hill. In Texas, Native Americans living in the region had known about the sticky black tar found in the earth there for centuries. They had long used it for medicinal purposes. By the end of the 19th century, several discoveries of oil had been made in the southeastern part of the state. In 1900, however, total Texas oil production was 863,000 barrels, a small fraction of the national total of 63 million. Spindletop Hill, south of Beaumont in Jefferson County, was formed by an underground silt dome. As it grew, it pushed the earth above it higher and higher. It was the mechanic and self-taught geologist Petilio Higgins who first suspected that there might be oil beneath Spindletop and other small salt domes. Higgins organized the Glady City Oil, Gas and Manufacturing Company in 1892 to look into the possibility. However, his theory was met with a widespread skepticism from the petroleum and geology experts. Years later, Higgins ran a newspaper advertisement for fellow investors. He got responses from the engineer Anthony F. Lucas, who shared Higgins' view on the salt domes. When Lucas finally convinced two leading Pennsylvania oilmen to finance the drilling operation, Higgins was completely excluded from the arrangement. Higgins would later file a lawsuit and receive a comfortable profit from the Spindletop oil field. Oil discovery sent the town booming. Drilling began at Spindletop in October of 1900. By early January 1901, they had reached the depth of some 1,020 feet after overcoming initial difficulties in drilling into the sandy ground. On January 10th, mud began bubbling out of the hole. Workers soon fled as the mud came gushing out at a high speed, followed by natural gas and then by oil. The Lucas Geyser, as it was called, reached the height of more than 150 feet. It was the most powerful that had ever been seen in the world. The geyser was soon producing close to 100,000 barrels a day, more than all of the other oil wells in America combined. Tens of thousands of people flocked to Spindletop oil field after the strike. Within months, southeastern Texas was transformed from a sleepy backwater to a bustling boomtown. Spindletop saw the earliest beginnings of petroleum company that would become Gulf Oil Corporation. The oil strike also spawned the oil giants Texaco, Amco, and the Humble Oil Company, later Exxon Company USA. In its first year, Spindletop produced more than 3.5 million barrels of oil. In its second, production rose to 17.4 million. Spindletop drove down the price of oil and destroyed the previous monopoly held by John D. Rockefeller and the Standard Oil. It also ushered in a new era of Texas-based business and was enormously influential in the state's development. New oil companies were formed, along with refining and marketing organizations needed to support them. That brought a host of new jobs and increased income in the state's residents. Meanwhile, thousands of new prospectors arrived in Texas, searching for their own fields of black gold. Railroad and shipping industry growth followed. Though the oil boom surrounding Spindletop had largely subsided by the beginning of World War I, its impact was much longer. The abundance of oil found in Texas would fuel the growth of the shipping and railroad industries. It would also lead to the development of new innovations such as automobiles and airplanes. By the late 20th century, oil production continued to dominate Texas business. However, electronics, aerospace, and other high-tech fields had increased in importance as well. A monument commemorating the importance of the Lucas Geyser was erected in 1941 at Spindletop Hill. It was later moved after the Texas Gulf Sulphur Company used the site for salt brine removal in the 1950s. Today, the pink granite monument is found in Beaumont, Texas. It resides at the Spindletop Gladys City Boomtown Museum at Lamar University.